The life you once had is gone forever now. Don't spend more than 10,000 euros on any given item. Some of the finfluencers, if you want to call them that, they like the garbage coming out of their mouth.
So, Eoin, you are a columnist for the Irish Independent. You're a financial planner. And something that I've always found very interesting about you, you're also an advisor or financial planner for several lotto winners.
Yeah.
So what does that entail?
It's interesting because I suppose it's not just lotto winners. Like, we have a very successful business. We have gone from 4 staff to 40 staff in the last 4 years. We have an amazing team, like a really fantastic team. And we get to help lots and lots of households. And on every level of wealth, we get to help lots of households. But there is this unique thing where somebody wins the lotto, or somebody inherits money for the first time, or maybe they sell their business out of the blue. And what I mean by that is the thing that ties those three things together is they've come into big money for the first time. And I suppose, like, the only thing I can put it down, why do we get more than our fair share of these type of people who have come into this money? I think it's probably down to when you come into money for the first time, surprisingly coming into money for the first time, you probably don't have that network built around you, that professional network built around you. And you kind of go, actually, there's your man off the telly, we'll go to him. And I think that's part of the driver behind it. And it's interesting because people will say it to me. They'll say, oh, if ever I win the lotto, I'm coming to you. And it's something that just has become self-perpetuating, and it drives on. And it is a really it's a very, very privileged place to be. Like, if you think about it, these people have come into money for the very first time, large sum of money. They don't know where to turn, and they turn to you. Like, that's a privilege. And the trust that they're putting in us is something we take incredibly serious, not just for lotto winners, but for all of our clients. We take it incredibly serious, the privileged position. Like, I think, I would say this, I'm biased, but I think I have the best job in the world. Like, I'm a financial planner, right? So if you think about it as a professional, no other professional gets to see the insight into people's lives that we get to see. Like, a doctor gets to see your health. Your accountant gets to see your accounts. I have to see it. Sometimes I have to look at your health, and sometimes I'm looking at your wealth. I'm looking at your life goals and your ambitions and your dreams, and you're building a financial plan that allows people to fulfill what it is they're trying to achieve. And not only that, I get that insight at the start, and then I get to check on it all the time. Like, there's no other profession that you really can help support people live the life that they want to have. And it is a great privilege. And when you do get people with lotto wins or coming into money for the first time, it's a slightly different engagement. And the reason why it's a different engagement is because, first of all, there's only one real objective I have in the first meeting. And ideally they come before they go and collect the money, but we can get into that if you want to. But the one real key thing and the message I want to give to the people who've just come into this money is the things that made you happy before are the things that are going to make you happy in the future. It's just you should have more time to do them now. Because ideally you're not going to have to work, right? Let's just assume you're not going to work. Interesting, about 50% of people will still work. They will still keep working. And they're people who love their job, right? I wouldn't give up my job if I won the lotto. I might tone it down a little bit. I might do less, but I'm not giving it up, right? So, but that's the real key message. And the reality is, if you were miserable before this money's not going to make you happy. Like, in fact, it could be worse. Like, you have that situation where all of a sudden you don't have having no money to blame for you being miserable or being unhappy. And you have all the money and you're still unhappy, and there's an underlying issue there. There's something that's just not right in your life, and you need to try and fix that, because the money ain't going to fix it for you. Like, it's entirely, this amplifies things on every level. If you're an incredibly happy-go-lucky person and you're really great, and then you get this money, you're going to be even more incredibly happy and joyful and everything else. But it doesn't work the same for sadness. If you're someone who's not happy in life, this is going to make things worse, I'd suggest, before it's going to get better.
Tell me about the very first interaction you have with them, because I'm curious. Do they call the office? Are they a little bit cagey at the beginning? Do they come out straight away and say, I've won the lotto?
Yeah, so it would often be a little bit more subtle than that. We've come into some money, we wanted to have a chat with you, not sure where to go with this, don't know but like they don't know what the steps are and what the process is. And then with a little bit of talking, you'll find out what's the money, and you just have to be blunt. How much money have you got? Where did it come from? How did you get it? You'll engage with them. It is interesting. Lots of people, some people will make a decision that they're not telling anyone and they're keeping it to themselves.
How many? That seems quite common that people don't tell.
It's more than you think. Like the more, I would suggest that it's probably up around 70% of the. Now that's totally anecdotal, right? Sure. So I don't know what the actual. I'm sure Lotto could give the actual figures, but it's quite high in terms of. But don't underestimate the pressure that brings on you. Like the pressure of having this money, wanting to enjoy it, but not wanting anyone to notice that your life is a bit different. That's incredibly difficult. But equally, you go public with it, and all of a sudden you're questioning, why has my mate, who I haven't seen since school, how come I just randomly bumped into them on Grafton Street? Like, was that random at all? Like, were they, like, was that all set up? And you're questioning every engagement that you people that you bump into. Like, I do know somebody who was who won the lotto, and they were single, and that was really hard for them, because it was known that they had won the lotto in their social circle, and when they were out, and they just wondered, were the people who they were chatting up, or they were being chatted up by, was this my money? Was this me? What was it? And it was really hard for them. So were
they getting a lot more attention?
They were probably out there a bit more. So it's hard to judge. Like if you're going out once a week and then all of a sudden you're going out 5 times a week, you're probably going to get 5 times as much attention, right?
Maths.
Yeah. So it's hard to know, but it was something that they struggled with for a while, and they were okay in the end. Imagine they survived. But it does question even whether it's romantic relationships or friendships or all your relationships. Then you start to question, what's the motive behind this? What's the agenda behind this? And it could be perfectly normal and natural, but also you add the added layer of complication when you go public is, it actually doesn't matter how much money you give someone. It's always going to be, that's all they gave me. Like, they won 10 million and I'm only worth 100 grand to them. Like, everything now has an underlying feel to it that you just can find really, really difficult. And don't underestimate that. Like, that's one of the things that people think, oh yeah, win the lotto, would be absolutely, my life would be set and I'd be delirious with life and everything would be great and everything would be fixed. Whatever about the happy and the non-happy, it does bring with it a whole pile of responsibility and a whole pile of questioning and a different level of kind of analysing what's going on around you and trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. It brings a whole level of complexity that just wasn't in your life beforehand. Like, if you're kind of running along with life and you've got X amount of money in your bank account at the end of each month, and it's the same every month, if you then win a chunk of money and then you spend it all and you're back to the same X that you were at the start, that X doesn't feel the same anymore, right? So going back to where you were is a miserable place to go back to, because now you had an opportunity and you blew it. And that can really take its toll on somebody. And don't underestimate the ability of people to actually blow this money. And it
big time. It can happen, and
absolutely.
It does happen.
It does. It does happen. Like, it does happen that you are set financially. If all you have to do is make the right steps, make the right moves, and protect the money, and things can go wrong, and spending habits can go up, and things can change, and you were extra generous to family and friends, and you can be left in a position where not only are you back at where you started, but you feel a hell of a lot worse about it.
Yeah. Do you ever have to intervene and say, please bring the Maserati back to the showroom?
Yeah. One of the things I would always say to people in that first meeting is, obviously the things that made you happy before are going to make you happy again. But secondly is, don't spend more than €10,000 on any given item in the next 6 months, right? I probably shouldn't say this here, but I will. I have no expectation they're going to follow that rule. But I want them to second guess themselves. I want them to think about it before they go and buy something ridiculous that in 6 months' time they're not going to want to. They're just going to say it was a waste of money and I did it because I could at the time. The thing about it is you can be very clouded in your judgment about what the right thing is to do. Like, everyone will say, oh yeah, I'd buy a Maserati if it was the car you used there. I'd buy that car for myself. I'd be so happy with it. But if you're part of the 70% of people who's not going public, you're not putting a Maserati in the driveway. Like, where'd you get that from? How did that work out? Like this doesn't tie in. There must be something else going on. And generally in Ireland, it's small enough that if the win is any size at all, you're talking about it in the paper. Everyone's talking about it. So it does make it, like, people start to question. And then we find out, oh, it was sold in that shop. So it's someone around here who bought it,
Yes.
bought the ticket, and now they've a Maserati. I wonder. So the level of pressure
Yeah.
when you're trying to keep it private, the level of pressure when you go public with it, but also, like, one of the things you do notice with people when you sit with them face to face, whatever about the first phone call and you're chatting to them, and then you go and you sit and you're talking to them face to face, there is a grief there. Like, don't underestimate the fact that your life has changed now forever. And yes, it's going to be better if you play your cards right, but the life you once had is gone forever now. And that can be, it's okay to feel a sadness about that, but people then get caught in the spiral of beating themselves up over feeling sad about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like a case of, oh, hold on a second, I have no reason in the world. I'm just after winning X amount of money on the lotto. I have no right to be sad. But you actually do, because there is a grieving process of the life you once had.
Well, that's it. I think the striving that we're all doing day in, day out is our forward momentum, isn't it? Just like trying to get somewhere.
Yes.
And if you don't have to strive anymore, I imagine, when you have it, and that kind of removes your sense of purpose.
Like, cliche alert, right? But it's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
Like, the reality of it is, even if we look to retirement and, like, we're all striving to one day not have to work anymore and reach what's called financial independence. So financial independence is the day in your life you created enough wealth that you don't have to work again. You don't have to worry about money. And all of a sudden you've cashed in a lotto ticket and you've reached financial independence without experiencing the journey. Right. And all of a sudden the stuff, like, if you think about it, I sit down with a client today and they're in their mid 40s and we look at it and we say, actually, you know, I'll play your cards right. We're going to be able to stop you working at 55. They have 10 years to think about what 55 to 85 or up to 100 looks like. They've 10 years to think about, what do I want to do with my life? What's my retirement going to look like? You win the lotto, you sell your business, you inherit a load of cash and you're giving up work and you decide to give up work. 10 years is now today. Now you're kind of like, oh, hold on, what do I want life to look like? And there is research that shows us that your life expectancy goes up by 11% for every year beyond normal retirement age that you work. Okay, now we would experience it a lot, and if you think about this from the lotto perspective, this is just getting thrown on them, right? So let's just take a senior executive in a role. They've been in the role for 40 years. They're 60 years of age. They get the retirement. They get the retirement due. Everyone says goodbye to them. Thanks a million for all the work, sweat, and tears that you put into this place. 3 weeks later, nobody from the office has rang them to say, I can't do this. In other words, the place is functioning without them. And you're sitting at home 3 weeks into your retirement going, and we see this a lot, right? You're sitting 3 weeks into your retirement going, the place didn't fall down without me. Like, it's still standing. They don't actually need me. What was the point of all that? What was the purpose of what I was doing for the last 40 years? Why did I stay late at night and go in early in the morning? Why did I lose sleep over that place when that place is functioning absolutely fine without me? And that, if you think about that in the ordinary course of events, just a normal retirement, you're expecting your retirement for 40 years, but all of a sudden that's thrust on you in one go with one check from whatever, the sale of the business or whatever it is, or the lotto win. And you're going, hold on a second, like, nobody actually misses me in that job.
Yeah.
And I put everything into it. And what we would strongly suggest for people, and again, the lotto winner doesn't get this luxury, we would talk to people about taking mini retirements. Practice your retirement. Find other things in life that really get you motivated and give you meaning and give you purpose, so that, particularly for business owners or senior level executives who are incredibly dedicated to their role and spend a lot of time in it, we'd strongly encourage them to take time out. Like, take your 2 weeks off, but do a week away and a week at home doing nothing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or the one big one that works really well is approach your boss. And if you don't work for yourself, approach your boss and say to them, yeah, and we'd say, just blame us. And say, I was chatting to your man, Eoin McGee, I was going through a financial plan with him, and he suggested that in 18 months' time I should take 6 weeks off. If you're willing to pay me, I'm happy to take the pay, but I'd like us to work the business towards me being out of the office for 6 weeks. Now, most people say my boss would never say that. But particularly if you're in a big business, you'd be shocked at the amount of bosses who will, because they're listening to you going, I wouldn't mind doing that. And some of the big firms actually have it set in that you've got 5 years service, you get a couple of weeks off. Or if you're over 50 at a certain age in the business, you get a couple of weeks off, or 2 or 3 months off and paid, you'll get it. And the reason for you to do it is to find your meaning and purpose, to try and reset, to try and go like, okay, I'm going to just kind of find out what it is that I get joy out of outside of work. The reason why a business does it, it's actually been proven that it tests the organizational chart. So how does the business cope without this person in the business? Be careful, by the way, because if
Yeah.
they cope really well, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But how does it? But it also gives an opportunity for somebody who reports into that person to step up for 6 weeks, to give them a trial at it, to see what that looks like for them. And it's actually quite good for the business and quite good for the individual, because they come back refreshed and recharged and ready to go at it again. And if you give enough notice, i.e. 18 months or so, the company should be able to survive and get through it. But again, back to the lotto winner.
Yeah, back to
They don't get that.
Yeah.
They don't get that opportunity. They just they're thrust into this thing of, oh, I'm not working anymore. What are you going to do? Don't know. Not sure. Really don't. And that's why half them, in my experience, will stay working.
Yes. So you've mentioned two big emotions that they experience, one being grief, another one being paranoia. Any other big emotions that can come up?
It's not all negative. Like, people are delighted. Like, people are really, really happy, and they do. And of course, they have to let their minds run away with things and really think about, like, the stuff that they never thought they'd be able to do. They can do it now, and there is an excitement about that. And it's an amazing thing to be around too, because. And again, it's a privileged place to be. You're being let in, particularly when people are keeping it quiet. You're being let into something that is just really is an exciting time. And it's usually not just the individual or the couple. It's usually the families are there, and everyone's even if it's staying private, it's still the families that would often be participating in the meetings. And which is kind of unusual in our circumstances. It's usually just an individual or a couple we're dealing with, but you accept that this is kind of the family is what it is that's going through this now. And it can be an exciting time. It is an exciting time. And like, even just setting out plans and trying to decide what's my next move and what does it look like, and what am I going to do for the kids, and what am I going to do for grandkids if that's the case, or how do I use this money to its best?
Yeah.
It's interesting the amount of people who want to do some type of charity, that they want to support a charity, but not, and maybe this comes back to the meaning and purpose part of it, but that they don't want to just support the charity. They'd like to go working in the charity and see the money being used that they're putting into it. And oftentimes it's not just, oh, I'm going to throw a lump of money at this charity. It's a case of, I'll give them some type of regular income going forward, and we'll try and just see what we can do with that to keep a charity going. And
Brilliant.
That's often just driven by something that they are touched by themselves or been experienced themselves, whether it's an animal shelter or some other thing that they kind of, this is something that is of interest to me.
Yeah. Do any of them struggle to spend the money?
No. One of the things that you might find is sometimes, particularly with a couple, you might have one who's like, let's just blow it. And the other one is like, that fear of going from here to down to here again is really, really real for them. And that can cause some tension between the two. And you're kind of like, ooh, okay, you can see that this is, and that's where we come in, because one of the things we calculate straight off the back is we look at their current expenditure and we say, okay, you're currently spending, let's just totally make up the number. You're currently spending 50,000 euros a year. There's no relevance to that number. You currently spend 50,000 euros a year in your life. You've won X amount of money. We've just lodged it into a bank account. If you invest that money and invest it wisely and safely, from now on, you could, the figure we give them is, it's not a target, but it's a limit. So we'll say you can actually spend 162,000 euros a year and you'll die at 100 years of age with no money. And that's the goal, that you've spent all your money. So you're currently spending 50, now you can spend an extra 112,000 euros a year, and whether that's gifting it off to other people or spending it on big holidays or whatever it is, and that's your safe zone, anywhere between up to 162,000 euros a year, or whatever the maths work out to be. There's another nice number we'd often give them, which is, right, we know what your lifestyle looks like right now. This is what it's costing you. Let's add on an extra 20% to your lifestyle, just so that you're really comfortable. Now, you were happy before this, so you're going to be happy after this, particularly with an extra 20% on your expenditure. And we can calculate how much of this money could you lose, right? And still be okay financially for the rest of your life. So in other words, lose it sounds like, oh, how would I lose it? I'm talking about like, you go and buy a boat, which is a depreciating asset, or you want to buy a place in the sun, and you go and buy a place in the sun. And it's not generating any income for you, but you're still able to live a very extravagant life and afford to pay for this. Or it might be that that's how much you can gift, that you're going to give that away in a tax efficient way to other people to try and let them benefit from the money too.
Yeah.
But we would always be very careful, and we'd always try and make sure that the person hasn't made any promises before we've done any of those calculations, because that can be a scary place. Oh yeah, I've promised them X amount and them X amount and them X amount, and I'm looking at it and going, you give away that much money, it sounds like you've won a lot of money, and you have won a lot of money, but that's a lot of money to give away if you're planning on giving up work now forever, and your life is going to be different from here on in.
Yeah.
You just need to be careful.
Yeah.
And that's not just lotto winners. We'd often have that with people. Oh yeah, my kids are about to buy a house. I promised them I'd give them X amount of money, right? And 1 in 3 people now rely on Bank of Mum and Dad to buy a house, promise them X amount of money. And I look at the maths and say, you give them that much money, and you're going to be out of cash by 84, 85 years of age. And that's just not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And we need to revisit those numbers again. So we always tell people, talk to us before you go make promises.
Sure. Do the people who have gone public, do they start getting like letters from someone they went to junior infants with?
It's more charities is a big one. And I'm sure charities would say, there'll be charities out there that say we would never do that. But it's more approaches than letters. It's more, I was telling such and such that I'm friends with you, and that charity really struggling. And that's that type of, we're Ireland at the end of the day, right? It's not really the begging letters is my, and they do happen, but it's not really. It's more kind of a friend of a friend wanted me to ask, and I hate to put you in this position, but would you be able to support that type of thing? And you have to be very careful with that. And what I would say there is you need to put a barrier between you and those emotional decisions. And sometimes that barrier is as simple as, oh, look, we deal with Eoin McGee, so we run everything through there before we make any commitments, which is what we do, whether it's family or something else. Before we make any commitments on anything over 10 grand, we decide that we test our financial plan to see if we can do it or not. And you need to just create that barrier that says, or else what you do is you very, very strictly sit down and say, right, these are the charities we want to help, and we say no to everything else.
Yeah.
And when the charities come at you, or just an individual who's struggling comes at you, saying with the emotional heartstrings and says, look, I'm really struggling with my bank, is there any chance you can help me, and I'll pay you back over X amount of years, or whatever the deal is that it's supposed to be, that you can say, well, actually, we've made a decision that this is who we're supporting, and we might review it this time next year. But what we'll do is we'll take them all down. We'll all sit down at a table at that stage and say, right, here's the 10 charities we're considering for the next calendar year. And lots of big businesses do that. Like if you look at some of the big businesses around Ireland, they will have a chosen charity for the year. And that's very worthy. It's a great way of doing it. But it also allows them to say no to all the other charities when they come knocking on the door. Oh, no, sorry, our chosen charity for this year is such and such a charity. But if you'd like to be considered for next year, this is the application form, or this is just write to this person or send them an email and we'll consider you for next year. And you need to kind of step back yourself and say, this is the way I should be running the household finances now, because we have a lot of finances now in the house. Yeah.
The people who don't go public and are trying to keep it all on the down low, would they ever call you and be like, oh, and I think I've been rumbled?
They do, no, but it wouldn't be a panic call like I think it's rumbled. It would be more, I love the way it thought of in your head and you were saying, oh, what do you do? Get out of here into witness protection. No, but what it would be more like, I was chatting, so and I just think they know. I just think they know about it. I think and there is that paranoia. Like you're going to be paranoid when you're trying to keep it to yourself. And there is that level of paranoia. And most of the time it's just a case of, they haven't asked me straight out and I'm not telling them. And let them think whatever they want, or just brush it off when there's a comment made, or whatever the case is. And that's fine too. But people would like to keep it to themselves. They accept that if they're going to make any changes to their life, people are going to be wondering about it. But as long as, typical Irish fashion, as long as we don't talk about it, it's not there.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yes. And it's okay to get through.
Ideal. What are the biggest mistakes that lotto winners make from your point of view? Now, I know you're there as a financial planner but in broad strokes. Broad strokes.
Sometimes it's whether it's 10 million or 10,000 euros or 1,000 euros, right? And you see it when I'm writing my column. This comes up time and time again about the 5-year rule, right? And so just for people who aren't familiar with the 5-year rule, you should be reading the column first of all. That's what I would say, right? And you would be then. But the 5-year rule basically says if you have money that you need in the next 5 years, it belongs in a bank account, credit union, or on post. That's where it should be. The interest rates are awful, but you just put up with it because you're going to spend it in the next 5 years. But if you don't need the money in the next 5 years, it absolutely does not belong at the credit union, bank account, or on post. It needs to be somewhere else. It needs to be invested. And one of the biggest mistakes you see with people who come into a lot of money in one go is that they get caught out with the perception of, I sure have loads of money, I don't need to do anything with it. And they really are damaging the long-term value of their money. And it's yes, you will probably be okay. If you've won enough, you'll be okay for the rest of your life if you leave it sitting in a bank account. But this is an opportunity to create generational wealth if it's managed properly. That you will never run out of money. You'll be able to live the life you want to live and even more. And you'll be able to leave it to the next generation too, which is huge. And that's probably the biggest mistake. But that's not just the biggest mistake with lotto winners. Like, we've nearly 170 billion sitting on deposit right now in Ireland. And that's just the people of Ireland. I would suggest about 100, 110 of that shouldn't be there. It should be invested. That's not going to be touched in the next 5 years. The banks are delighted. They're paying you 1, maybe 2% to have it sitting there. And they're giving me a mortgage at 4%. And they're using your money to lend it. They're paying you 1 or 2 and charging me 4. Or even better still, they've overdrafts of 15%, of their credit cards at 22%. That's your money that's been lent out to others. And we need to really drive on that as a country. But even there's a big push in Europe at the moment.
Isn't there?
Yeah, huge push in Europe to try and get us a bit more engaged in moving away from deposit and bank accounts and moving into things that will generate real wealth for long-term financial wealth.
Yes. And on that note, because I feel the new generation are a little bit better, a little bit more open to investing. Have you noticed that with a lot of winners that you work with, that the slightly younger ones have a different approach?
Yeah, I think young people in general, like when I go in, sometimes I go into a school and I'll do a talk, and it's incredible to listen to 15, 16, 17, even 18-year-olds at this stage in secondary school, and they'll be asking you about crypto, and they'll be asking you about trading platforms and how they do it and how it works, and like even down to things like, do you agree that you should have 5 sources of passive income? And you're going,
Oh my God.
man or woman or whatever it is, right? And it's impressive, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely, like, if you think about it right now, you have more readily available information than we've ever had before. So it's really accessible, but that also comes with a warning, and the warning is, make sure the advice and information you're getting is being given by someone qualified to give it. And particularly be careful of some of the stuff that comes out of the States. Like some of the finfluencers, if you want to call them that, they, like, the garbage coming out of their mouth and the belief that they're creating will just burn you, and you will walk away from it. You'll never go back to it. Like, there's lots of people far too young, and I'd say you're too young actually to remember the whole Aircom debacle. And the Aircom was, at the time, it's now Air. I think it's now, it's become Air now. But at that time, it was owned by the government, and they were going public, and the public were encouraged to buy shares in it.
There's people still sitting with those shares.
There are.
Just hoping maybe.
Yeah. And they got burnt badly.
Yeah.
It didn't go well at all.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people even now, like that's 25 years ago, I'd say. And even now to this day, I will be at a client meeting and they'll be sitting on some cash and say, look, you really need to, I don't like investing. You really need to invest. I really don't like investing. No, we got caught out with Aircom shares, and I said, never do that again. And the fear is that you're going to have 18, 19, 20-year-olds sitting on their couch playing with their phone, buying and selling random shares.
Yes.
And they're going to get burnt so bad that they're going to go, oh, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
And they're just going to step away from it. And that's the big fear for me. Are we going to burn them so bad that they have such a bad experience? I hate those apps, by the way, right? So I hate the idea that you can open up your phone and buy and sell shares, because those apps encourage all the wrong behaviour. First of all, if you own shares in less than 5 companies, that's closer to betting than it is investing.
Yes.
Okay. But also remember, they make money when you buy and they make money when you sell. The long-term investor doesn't buy and sell every day. They buy and they hold. It's a great story actually, where there was a company in the US. I can never back this one up, but it's a great story anyway. So just allow me have it, whether we can back it up or not. But basically, there was a company in the US that had a couple of 100,000 investors, and these investors had no financial advisor, planner, or anything in the middle. Right. So these were just direct customers. And they went about contacting the top performing investors. And they identified the top 100 and reached out to them and said to them, what's your secret sauce? How did you manage to outperform all of our other clients? And what they found was 80% of them were either dead or had forgotten about the account. Yeah. So they just invest and forget. They left the thing alone. And that's the opposite to what these apps encourage. And my fear is that people will have a quick win and they'll lose it, and they'll get sucked into putting more money than they can afford into these things. They're betting, they're not investing. They'll lose a whack of cash, and they'll say, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
We had it a couple of years ago at the TV show, actually, when I was presenting How to Be Good at Money. And it would take kind of a 6-month period that you'd be filming over. And I remember the application forms came in, and when I started going through people's finances, loads of people buying crypto. And crypto was really gung-ho at the time. And we made a decision that we were going to bring crypto into the narrative of the story to kind of explore it. It was quite new at the time, and it wasn't quite new, but it was very much becoming mainstream at the time. Within a couple of months, when we were actually sticking the camera in their face, a couple of weeks, maybe 6 weeks later, sticking the camera in the face, oh no, I sold my crypto, I have nothing to do. There was no story there, because it had taken such a dive. No, because that people were just like, no, I lost loads of money. I'm never touching that again.
Yeah.
So there was no story there, but it does serious damage to people
Yes.
and their confidence in doing it again. And that's a problem for people. Like we started this conversation with why did they come to me? They come to, when a lot of winners win, they probably come to me because they're not sure where else to go. So they mightn't have the experience of what long-term investing looks like. And therefore, they're going to have a nervousness about that. And that's what my job is, to hold their hand and make sure we can try and create generational wealth here for people.
Yeah, yeah. So finally, if you were to win the lotto tomorrow, let's say...
Wouldn't tell you.
Okay, so we know this. You'd be in the 70% of... You wouldn't tell?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't tell. No, I probably wouldn't, to be honest. I'd probably just keep it to myself. I'm not sure. You see, there is an interesting thing. We didn't really touch on it, Katie. There is an element of when you're happy and you win this money, you don't actually change that much. Like when you're truly happy with where life is at, money, as we said at the start, you might have a bit nicer, you might have a nicer seat on the plane, right? You might have a few other bits and pieces that make it lovely. But you're not going to dramatically change a happy life just because you win the money. So, and I am very happy, right? So therefore, it wouldn't be that much to change. Like I wouldn't be changing my car, I wouldn't be changing where I live, I wouldn't be I'd be sticking with what it is. So I don't think it would be that hard for me to hide the fact that I won the lotto.
So how would you invest it?
Oh, like to be honest, it would be. I actually tell you, the Warren Buffett story always jumps into my head. So he's in his 90s. People who don't know him, he's in his 90s. He's one of the richest men in the world. He's worth over $100 billion. Sorry, he's worth over $100 billion. He's been investing since he was 13. And a journalist asked him at one stage, Warren, we can see there's a playbook here. Like we can literally see every trade you've ever made. Why doesn't everyone just copy you and just do what you did, and they could create the same wealth for themselves? And his answer was superb, and it really ties into my own investment philosophy. He said, nobody wants to get rich slow anymore. And that's exactly, like, I am so simple, so boring, and so straightforward when it comes to investing. I'm happy to get my excitement from my life, right? My investing is supposed to be boring. It's supposed to be simple. I put it in, I set it up right at the start, and I leave the thing alone. I invest and forget. And I just stick it in there, leave it there, let it work. And the way I invest my money is exactly the same way I invest my clients' money. Like there's nothing, I'm not doing something different. I'm not chasing the next big thing. What is the next big thing? Like the next big thing might be crypto, might be gold, or it might be NFTs. Do you remember NFTs?
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Probably silver.
Yeah. So, and statistically, you have to invest in 22 next big things for one of them to work out.
Yes.
So I'm not going chasing that. I'm not saying people aren't making money on it. It's just I'm not going doing it. I'm not doing it for clients either, because I think it's a fool's game. The statistics are totally stacked against you. So just be boring and simple and buy the market. And we buy the market with a little bit of a twist. And we put our money into shares. We put our money into bonds. I can look back over 100+ years of data, and I can be fairly sure what the next 5 years is going to look like, what the next 10 years is going to look like. And I'm happy with that. I'll go and, I don't know, buy a jet ski or something, get my excitement from that if that's what I want to do. I'm not going to get my excitement, and I wouldn't change how I invest money if I had exponentially more of it because I won the lotto.
So low risk, sustainable.
Not necessarily low risk. I'm happy to turn up the risk. I'm just not going to take stupid. But I take a considerable amount of risk at the moment. It's just really well spread out. It's well constructed, well diversified portfolio. Like when I look at a client's portfolio, we typically have exposure to about 13,000 different entities. Now I say entities because some of your money is in bonds and you're giving a loan of money to governments, and then you're buying shares in companies. And I can usually challenge a client, say, tell me any company, like any company, big company in the world, and I'd be fairly sure you have a bit of it.
So you are on the road very soon.
Yeah, new venture, big start to 26 for me. So I've a new book out, which I'm delighted about, and that was an interesting one because I'm going to be honest with you. I did tell my publisher recently when I started the project I was a bit reluctant, and I was like, oh, will I do this? And then I got into it, and I'm really happy with it. Like the book is great, and that's brilliant. I'm delighted with that. But I'm also a bit scared because I'm doing live shows. So I do a lot of corporate speaking. And one of the things I wanted to do was going into the corporate speaking environment is brilliant. And you've got a couple of hundred people and they're sitting in front of you, and they do a lot of it every month. And what I wanted to do is if you don't work for a big employer, or you're not part of an organization or a body who brings in guest speakers all the time, you don't have the same access, right? So I wanted to make it feasible for anybody who wanted to get started on 2026 right. and whatever, that they're going to be prepared that whatever 26 throws at them financially, they're going to be ready for it. So I'm doing 2 shows. I'm doing one in the Lime Tree in Limerick on the 20th of January, and then I'm doing one in the Helix in Dublin on the 29th of January. And there'll be a couple of hundred people there. We're going to talk about what's going on in the big bad world. All the stuff that's going on outside your front door, and we're going to talk about everything that's going on inside your front door. What can you do about it? How do you take control of it? How do you get the foundations of your finances right? So what's the tips and tricks and the day-to-day stuff that you can do that really just gets the foundations right, so that when you start to move ahead with your finances, there's no cracks in the foundations and you get all that stuff right. We're going to talk about investing, how to invest, where to invest, why we invest. We're going to talk about getting into and getting out of debt. Happy debt and crappy debt, as I describe it. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do a live financial plan. So someone from the audience will engage with us. We will build out their financial plan. We'll show them, and we'll show it for everyone to see. And they'll be seeing it for the first time. They'll be up on stage, they'll be seeing it. So we talk about the current path. So if you just stick your head in the sand and you keep doing exactly what you're doing financially, at what point do you reach financial independence, right? And everyone has a date of financial independence. Financial independence is, whether it's you get there when you're 32 or 92, we'll all get there at some stage. But it's the day in your life you've created enough wealth that you don't have to work again, you don't have to worry about money. And what I'll be able to show the person is, if you keep doing what you're doing, you might get to financial independence at 62, just make that up. But then we'll show them live, if you change this, this and this, and you use the same money in a different way, you can get a very different result, and you retire at 55, let's just say. And you get to see what the long-term impact is of the financial decisions you make today. And they might have a question like, what if I move house, or what if I put an extension in the house? Oh, well, 55 becomes 56, or whatever the case. So we're going to do that live on stage. And then finally, we're going to finish off. Katie, I'm sure you're familiar, but maybe everyone else not familiar with my Q&A on a Saturday on Instagram. And I'll get somewhere between, the last time I counted, it was about 800 to 1,200 questions every Saturday. Yeah. I try and answer about 20 or 30 of them. We're going to do that live in the room. And we will pass a mic around, let people ask the question, and we'll just go through them and get through as many as we can. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's great to be able to do it. It's great to make it open and accessible to whoever wants to do it. And they had the tickets, they are flying. So I'm delighted. There won't be shows added. It's these 2 shows. I don't have to schedule for it. So it's these 2 shows. They've been in my diary for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Eoin McGee, thank you so much.
Thanks very much for having me in.